Hello and welcome to Talkin' Baseball, rumor mill season, and it's Hall of Fame ballot time. Let's do it. Small hall only. Hello and welcome to Talkin' Baseball, presented to you by SeatGeek, the #1 ticketing app in the world. SeatGeek, it's so easy to use. I can use it. Download the app. 70,000 events every single day on SeatGeek. I think Biebs went to the Mecca last night. A little SeatGeek action there. A little in-season tournament. Hey, maybe buy some tickets for your team before they sign that big free agent, because those prices might, they start going a little north when they start rolling out the checkbook a little bit. Download the app, go see something, and use code TALKIN, $20 off your first purchase with SeatGeek. Trevor Plouffe live on the West Coast, and I am lucky enough to say I'll get to see you in person tomorrow, maybe even 9:30 p.m. Resi. How you doing, Trev?
Unlike those prices that are going north, you and I are going south.
Sure are.
I'm doing great, man. I don't know if you saw that pitch I threw you. It was my new gyro backup sweeper slider.
Yes.
I developed it. You guys, it's a slider. They're all sliders. So just move differently. I don't know why I had to say that. I had to get that off my chest. Yeah. Trevor May was putting out videos. I love you so much, T2. Way too in depth for me. Okay, maybe that's why I was a bad hitter. I don't know. I'm excited for this episode. Rumor mill is going to be fine. We still haven't had like massive breaking news yet in the off season. But the HOF ballot, I think this is going to be fun. There's a bunch of guys on here that, deserve a shot, but with what we've known about the HOF, probably aren't going to get in. But I think our official ballot is what really matters to these guys. That's what I'll say. Probably not, but I'm excited. Biebers, I'm going to ask you something. How you doing, bro?
I'm doing great. Excited for winter meetings next week. 1, because I'll be there. Exciting. Tease the people with that. And 2, because that's when I think we'll start getting like action. So, and we've been fed a little bit the last couple weeks, but good time to do this ep.
Yeah,
starting to get hot in the streets a little.
I thought baseball offseason was getting going, but in hindsight, it was Nola re-signing in the Cardinals. Like otherwise it hasn't really yet. That makes me think they're lining up for winter meetings, which
and the Tigers
makes me a little jelly. Obviously, the Tigers are rolling and building something in that Central, like we've talked about. We haven't gotten too much rumor mill wise. I mean, it's kind of calm before the storm season. Was there anything out there? Are your little birdies telling you anything, Trev? Is there anything you need to get out?
Trevor's tidbits have just kind of gone by the wayside. It was an era for me where I was reaching out looking for information. I really haven't done it. I'm assuming we're going to get some things here and there this weekend as we are surrounded by some ball players. I'm just reading the articles like all of us are, on X, getting Kenny Rosenthal updates. There's a bunch of stuff out there that I thought was interesting. A lot of trade candidates, people who are saying like Juan Soto definitely going to be traded is the rumor that's out there right now. That's a massive trade. We're talking about a 25-year-old his career has started off like Ted Williams. Like, don't forget how good Juan Soto is at the plate. He's going to be traded, according to industry sources. Now, where we don't know. You were in a Yankees hat. A lot of people are saying that. But the ones that I was kind of like more interested in, I had a little bit of talk about Bo Bichette with C. Rose on Baseball Today. I thought that was an interesting one as far as, Toronto having to make a decision, maybe having to decide between Vlad Jr. and Bo Bichette, which that's a self-imposed decision, by the way. You don't have to decide between both those guys. You can't have them both.
Right.
So there's rumors of him. Then the one I think I was most intrigued by was the Alex Bregman rumor. There's rumors that he's being floated out there. And I know the Astros they've been ruthless with some of their stars, like kind of like letting them walk. We're talking about George Springer. We're talking about Garrett Cole,
Correa.
Carlos Correa. So, trading a Bregman, I guess, would kind of be on brand for them. But I just have him so locked in as an Astro. He's one of those guys that I can't imagine on a different team, man. I really couldn't. But those are those three guys right there, Soto, Bichette, and Bregman. We're talking about three of the top, let's just say 20 players in baseball. Might be traded this offseason. I would love to see it, I guess, but in my mind, man, I don't know if it makes any sense.
Yeah, I think the thing for me, you're right about Soto. I guess there's a little bit like we've kind of seen it. Like he already got traded once, and it was a big deal. It was trade deadline. It was that whole thing that, I don't know. I think just anytime something happens, that's the big one. But when it goes down, it'll be massive. I think the other thing, and I've flip-flopped on this a little bit, and you, me, Jim, Beebs, we've talked about this. The biggest free agency for a single player is happening live, but there's nothing on it. There's nothing on it. I had some friends of the program in my DMs after a couple episodes ago when we were talking about Shohei potentially having his like private fly-in zone and come to me and we'll figure this out. I don't know what I can confirm or deny, but I had some people saying like kind of yes. And that's awesome and hilarious at the same time. That, yeah, you wonder how that breaks. And it just, I guess for me, we get the Friday tweet, not even a week ago from our guy Howie Rose saying Ohtani news is might happen today. Might in today, the two operative words, Trev. And now we're kind of up against it. So yeah, it's one of those weird things because it's like, okay, this free agency class isn't great, but we have the guy who's going to break the contract for biggest contract ever, and then like you said, our generation's Ted Williams is probably going to be traded for the second time. So the juice is there. It's just when are we going to squeeze it? Ain't that life?
I'm about to say something that people are not going to like.
Okay.
But I saw a tweet with it, man. There was a point, and I don't know. I wish I had the tweet up in front of me. I don't know if it was talking about like a 7-year peak for Ted Williams or the first so many seasons or whatever. I mean, it could have been his whole career, but he only faced 8 teams.
Yeah, I guess interleague play didn't exist, right?
He faced 8 teams.
Trev!
I'm just saying, that's crazy talk. And probably the same guys were on those 8 teams like the whole time because there wasn't free agency yet. That's crazy to me. We don't need to go into that. I love you, Ted Williams. I am the son after you. Oh, gosh.
Talks between the Yankees and Padres about a Juan Soto trade have progressed to the point of exchanging names on players.
Oh, my gosh.
Which, that update always kills me because, like, what did they talk about before?
Yeah, what were they talking about?
I've always been fascinated if I got to sit down with any GM and be like, literally, how do trades happen?
I want that so bad.
What do you mean?
How is that an update?
What did they possibly talk about before? I guess just like surface level, like we'd love.
Not a single name was said on the other side of the phone.
Like they've said, like we need an MLB ready guy.
I think it's vague. It's here's the tiers of our prospects. What are you looking for? Give me a general idea of a package, and then we can start saying, okay, let's get into specifics. Because if you just start floating out specifics right away, you lose leverage. That's all it is. It's just leverage plays back and forth. Okay, you want this? Well, here's my tier. So I get that. I get that. If you do actually progress to the point where you're exchanging names, like your specific players, I think that does mean that means something because that is the third or fourth conversation that they probably have had regarding a trade. I mean, that's good for Yankees fans. That's awesome because no other team is out there rumored to be having talks and exchanging names.
Yeah.
Hey,
Holy
hey, Prell Daddy, take who you want.
Nobody's off limits for you?
I think the only thing like Jason Dominguez, he's just, we need lefties and outfielders, and like in theory the plan would to be pair that going forward and like kind of Judge, but everything else like kind of has to be. Yanks
Is the Martian even your best prospect right now?
I think so.
Depends what website you go to,
so.
who likes who more. But.
Stop talking Yankees, bro. And for those people, Ted Williams, career 2,021 walks, 709 strikeouts.
I love Ted Williams. People don't think I don't like Ted
People
Williams.
are starting to think you don't like Ted. Doesn't have 3,000 hits. JM baseball video coming soon. Did miss 3 years serving our military. So, Ted, we salute you.
It's been a big Ted Williams week at this office. Video coming soon.
Hey, go buy yourself some merch from the John Boy Media merch store. The holiday season is coming. Trev's got the lid on right now. That's a nice look. BBD. Well, it's a John Boy Media lid. He's got the shirt on underneath, a little We Got Ice shirt.
You can't buy this.
We are going to have some big breaking episodes soon. Partially me and Trev living in fear of those, but Juan Soto, Ohtani, winter meetings. Get jazzed up. Until then, we need to get some people into the Hall. It's sneaky Hall of Fame season. You're going to see more ballots coming out on the internet. You'll see people getting mad about ballots. Kind of like what we've done with all JM team. This is kind of America's ballot. This is the one that counts. You know, this isn't how are you cooking your Gold Glove voting. This isn't Silver Slugger. All JM Hall of Fame ballot. And we did an episode like this almost 2 years ago now. I think it was January 22.
2 ballots ago for sure.
That we were letting some people into the Hall of Fame. And, you know, this is a weird mix because we're kind of a team on this, but we also, you know,
things different.
Everyone's Hall of Fame is different. And we've got, I think there's one layup on the list, and then we enter Hall of Fame hell. Like, I think there's one guy that feels like a no-brainer. We're putting him on our 10-person ballot. And if you don't know, most of you probably do, the Hall of Fame voters, you get to pick up to 10. So that's where you see a lot of the discourse. There's some people that'll only vote. There's some people, you could vote for 0 people if you really want to do that. And
people turn in a blank one. That's just hurt everybody.
That's their Hall of Fame. There's some people that need to fill out 10. And there's everything in the middle. And with the baseball writers, boy, you get a large spectrum of different views on it. So with that, are we going to do it draft style and then kind of a vote? Or where are you at, Trev?
I'm going to start this off.
Okay.
Because I know who you're talking about. Slam Dunk should be a first ballot guy. Fortunately for me, I got to play against him. I got to play with him. Spring training 2018. It's Adrian Beltre, who is on the ballot for the first time. He's amassed over 90 career WAR. He's one of the best defensive players we've ever seen. He has over 3,000 hits, so he has the counting stats the old guys like. He's got some of the new age statistics that you like, especially defensively. It's an absolute no-brainer for me, and I think for anybody, this guy should be a first ballot guy, and I think we start there. Adrian Beltre.
Yeah, I think going into modern balloting, if that's a word, which I don't think it is, 93.5 career WAR. Yo, I don't think a lot of people necessarily hold Adrian Beltre to that standard because there's a couple different things going on here. He does have a second half of his career that's really good, and for a lot of guys, you don't. Like I think Andruw Jones will get mentioned in a little bit. One of my arguments that I don't know. It's not like I'll defend the wall forever with it, but I think it's an interesting baseball conversation. Go look at Ken Griffey Jr.'s baseball reference page and go look at Barry Bonds' baseball reference page. Go look at their lives after 30. There's a guy that was on some stuff. There's a guy that wasn't on some stuff. And if you're over 30, you know what happens to your body. Adrian Beltre, there's not a ton of bold on the page, Trev. It's interesting. Like, it's a little Scott Rowland-esque, but where Scott Rowland was on the fringe, it felt like, of the Hall of Fame. There's a lot of Adrian Beltre's numbers that have him as like an inner circle guy. 3,000 hits, and like I mentioned with that WAR and just everything he did. This guy's getting in. It's kind of a matter if he's first Hall or not.
Yeah, that's what I said. He's kind of a mixture of, he has those counting stats. He's only 23 homers away from 500 with 477. I mentioned he's over 3,100 career hits, right? 3,166. So he's in the Hall of Fame. I guess it is a matter if he's first ballot or not. I tend to believe he is, but I don't know, man. I'm gonna speak on him how I know him. Because what else? How else am I supposed to speak on something?
And Trev, don't as I get a little as I get jazzed up or a little foreplay. I don't know. I love poking some stories out of you when I can, but this is a third baseman that played while you were playing, so I'd love to know what Beltre stories you got up your sleeve.
I learned a lot from him just by watching him. Like, probably one of the guys in baseball that I learned the most from watching, just because obviously he played my position, but he would do things differently. He didn't look like maybe a prototypical third baseman how you'd want to look. And I'd say, like, if I had to say someone that looks like does everything the right way, you can look at like a Longoria. Arenado's a little different. Arenado likes to throw on the run a little bit more.
A silly
but
one.
Beltre,
a silly one for Talkin Baseball fans would be Brandon Drury. Maybe not performance-wise, although he's been great. But God, you see that guy at third base and you think that's
he looks great in the uni,
yeah.
Of course. Brandon Drury
he
looks great.
He literally
looks
about
just
like a third baseman.
Just mechanics. Mechanics. Beltre's mechanics were different, man. Like, real low arm slot from third base. I had to really come over the top because if you're making that long throw and you're on the side, you tend to lead the ball up the baseline into the runner a little bit. But Beltre was kind of always with that lower arm slot, could play laterally, could come in on the ball better than anybody. I think one of the things you think about Beltre is him coming in and the way he'd throw that ball. Typically, you kind of take that little, you try to get around it a little bit, get your momentum going to first base. He never did. He just kept going to home plate and would throw that thing and then would like fall. Like, he'd always end up on the ground. But he had so much juice in this little motion right here, like the little, it hit an unbelievable arm, great hands. So defensively, I learned a lot. Here's two things that I always did because he did them. Before every single game, I saw he would go over to third base and he would start to roll his ankles out. Never saw anybody roll their ankles out, but I'm like, if Adrian Beltre is rolling his ankles out, I'm gonna start rolling my ankles out. So he put his like toes in the dirt and kind of just like pronate and just kind of like get him loose. I'm like, that's amazing. And I started doing it every single game because he did it.
He's like stretching his ankles.
Here's my one, there's so many. My favorite thing, because we got to get through more guys. My favorite thing that I learned from him, this is game within the game type shit. Love this. Runner on third base, sac fly to center or to right field where you don't have the cut. He would just stand in front of the guy trying to see like when the ball was caught.
Yeah.
Like, he'd get in your way.
It's defense.
And you can't call that. And I've had umpires, because he did it, got in people's way, and I was like, I'm fucking doing that for sure. He did it to me. So that's when I first realized it. And I was like, I'm doing that every single time. That's amazing. And I had umpires come tell me, hey, you can't do it. I'm like, why? I can't be around the base.
Show me the rules.
He's like, you're obstructing. I'm not obstructing anyone. I'm not touching anybody. And they couldn't call it. But it helped so much. I felt like we got guys at home plate because you just did something like game within the game shit. And Beltre was the best at that, dude. So I don't know. I thought great teammate, all the other stuff, but this guy's a first ballot for sure.
Yeah, and I want to present both sides. And I think the conversation turns into more of a first ballot, which, again, there's some people that probably roll their eyes at that. I'm close to one of those people. I kind of don't care.
Okay.
Like, if you're a Hall of Famer, you're a Hall of Famer. I think from there, you can make your number one starting lineup, your number two starting lineup. I think that's a fun game. But otherwise, you're a Hall of Famer. So on the good side for Adrian Beltre, that will end up in the Hall of Fame, WAR, which a lot of teams still use as their metric. He is third all-time of third baseman. Mike Schmidt, Eddie Matthews, Adrian Beltre. Gets kind of tricky. A-Rod moves over to third and things like that. But guys considered third baseman in WAR that still gets used a lot, B-WAR, he's third best to ever do it. So that would be in his plus column. He gets a chunk of that from defense. They have him as the number 2 defensive WAR player ever. Now, you've heard me talk about defensive WAR. I don't think it's everything, but the guy ahead of him is Brooks Robinson, RIP, and I do think of him as the best defensive third baseman ever, so there's that. Where things get funky with Beltre, we love an MVP, and there's no MVP. He was top 5 3 years. The guys surrounding him, like Mike Schmidt was top 5 12 times. Eddie Matthews 6 times. Wade Boggs 6 times. George Brett 5 times. And the other thing that's just bizarre, because, when it comes to Hall of Fame, there's a lot of ways to measure it. It's how good is your peak or compiling and a lot of things in between. Mike Schmidt, Eddie Matthews, and Wade Boggs all had 12 All-Star games. Brooks Robinson, 18. George Brett, 13. Even that next tier, Chipper Jones, Paul Molitor, you're looking at 8s and 7s. Adrian Beltre only attended 4 All-Star games. I see weird. You waving the hand, Trev, but
who cares? The All-Star voting is stupid. We can all agree on that. First half is what that is. Right? It's a first half All-Star game. That doesn't make any sense. So I don't care about any of that. Most of the time, it's a popularity contest. I don't care about All-Star games. I don't. Great. They're awesome. Wish I would have made one. Wish I'd have made 10. But they don't mean anything in the grand scheme of things. They really, really don't. And if you're putting stock into how many All-Star games a guy has made, you're missing the point, people.
And Trev, to be your defense lawyer, Adrian Beltre career, 279, 330, 784 in the first half. Second half, 295, 350, 860 OPS. So he genuinely, if Adrian Beltre had all JM, he'd probably have 10. And a couple of those other guys would also come down to 10. But it's...
he'd have had himself a few years of doing the... sneak in last month. You're the best.
Sport, man.
There's guys that say no to the All-Star game because they just don't want to go. Right. It's a lot.
And Beltre specifically is just a fascinating career, which explains some of the All-Star stuff. Just did not make one in his 20s, only one incredible year in his 20s. Obviously, then all of his 30s were some of the best we've ever seen. But he's just a fascinating career in general, obvious Hall of Famer.
The one knock.
Okay.
The one knock for me on Beltre is the no touching of the head thing got overplayed to me. It got overplayed to me.
Got weird.
And that's not Beltre's fault. He didn't like people touching his head.
Yeah.
And then they just kept doing it. And it's hey, man, leave the guy alone.
For me, I don't think you're wrong at all. My biggest experience in life that I can relate to this is when Jake from State Farm became a thing. I'd show up anywhere in the world, coffee shop. I was working at my old job. I was traveling the country. And I'd be like, hey, Jake, nice to meet you. And they go, oh, Jake from State Farm? And man, if people have an easy joke and they take it and that's how they're getting through life, I'm for it. You know, have you seen the Eddie Escobar cat stuff this year?
Yeah,
Every
same.
road trip, someone busted out a fake cat. And it's like, come on, fellas. But at the same time, it's like, all right, we're having fun, huh?
All right, so Beltre's on our ballot. Check.
Snaps to Adrian Beltre. I guess, Beebs, I'll give you a little soccer kick assist to start off, because I want to phrase the question: is anyone on this list a lock to be a Hall of Famer? I think one guy is Todd.
He is the one that's
on
like
path.
He got to 72% last year. Nobody has gotten that close with this much time left on the ballot and not gotten in. So there's a chance we can, if we want to conserve our spots, we cannot vote for him because we think he'll get in and we could use this vote elsewhere. But
we're using our vote.
I think we want to use our votes on the slam dunk guys.
Yes.
If you don't go to him, I'm going to.
And
I will tell you that right now.
Yeah, and this will just be my time to give my annual Coors Field speech, probably biannual at this point. If you haven't looked into it all, the best way I can, I was going to say give a synopsis of it. Yes, you benefit from playing at Coors Field. You know, you heard the word humidor, you know, altitude, you get a chunk of that by now. Guys hit more at Coors Field. It also takes away from them on the road. They've done science stuff on it. Go DM Eno Saris, send him a picture of
you
whatever.
Say science stuff?
Science stuff, bro. That when they leave Coors Field, their body takes more of a beating playing at altitude. That's why we found out Trevor Story was so proud of his like athletic abilities. And then B, when they leave and hitting is so hard to do and the ball moves so quickly and precisely that when they go on the road trips, their swings and timing are literally off. That the challenge of hitting on the road may be equal to, if not worse, depending what style of hitter you are, than the boost you get at home. So, Coors effect, Rockies effect, go Google some stuff if you have some free time today. And if you let those thoughts enter your head and you look at Todd Helton's stats, yo, Trev.
Yeah, I mean, on Todd, he's going to get in this year because he's so close. I think he's deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. Another guy with not as many All-Star games as Jake would like, only 5 times. Sorry.
Well,
so you might strike him from the ballot because of that. But, I mean, this guy is one of the best pure hitters we've seen in our generation. I got to spend some time with Justin Morneau, as you know, and, you know, like he loves a Todd Helton. So I got to hear a lot about him. I'm in. I think it's similar in a Beltre in the fact that like top 10 in MVP voting only 3 times. That was in 2000, 2001, 2003. I mentioned the 5-time All-Stars. He won 4 Silver Sluggers, 3 Gold Gloves. So like he doesn't have some of these, 12 times winning awards as some of the other guys, but just the resume speaks for itself, man. This guy's, he will be in the Hall of Fame. He is on our ballot.
Can I talk about one of my favorite Todd Helton years?
Yes.
The one with the most bold on it, if you're looking at his baseball references, 2000. He led his league or all of baseball in the following categories: hits, doubles with 59, 147 RBIs. He led in all 3 triple slash lines, so therefore also OPS and total bases. Finished 5th in MVP.
Had the highest WAR. Had an 8.9 WAR. And it's one of my favorite things to do, and I make the Kyle Wright joke a lot. But think about humans, people. Okay, getting a little philosophical.
Yeah, I like this.
We're still early in this whole shebang. We're learning stuff every year. 15 years ago, if you were the starting pitcher with the most wins, you won the Cy Young. Like, that was kind of it.
About a 90% clip, I'd say.
Todd Helton, because he was on the Rockies and it's easier to hit there, and they weren't the best team in baseball, he did not win the MVP. If he had this season, comparatively, he probably wins the MVP. He had the highest WAR. He hit 372. Hit 372 with a 1.162. A higher OPS than Barry Bonds that season. And his teammate Jeff Kent, who actually won the MVP. So, Todd Helton, I'm hoping I can be opening your eyes, which is usually not my lane, but go dig into the Coors Field stuff, go dig into some previous year votings, and I think how you might view Todd Helton initially would change a little bit, because I think that guy's a Hall of Fame baseball player.
Tennessee boy.
Yeah.
Through and through. Gotta love that. The 10-year peak that you put on the sheet, Beavers, which goes from 97. Where is I had it up? Shit.
98 to 07.
98 to 07. 333, 432, 585 for a one daughter. A 1017.
One dotted for a decade.
I don't want to get too far into this, but what's your favorite peak? Is it 5 years? Is it 7 years? So I think we have to kind of adjust it for today's game. Like, you don't get the same opportunities as you used to.
The Hall of Fame
Yes
conversation
and
is
no.
typically centered
You
around a
don't,
10-year
dude.
peak.
You don't.
If you're these guys, you get those opportunities. Like, these are
No.
you
You
Hall
start
of
to
Famers.
DH. You start to platoon sooner than ever.
Yes and no. I mean, all of these guys that we're going to mention are going to have 5 years. I think you're right for...
I'm just saying, what's your preferred peak?
If you...
I think 5 is great.
I'd lean 7. I think...
7?
I
For Hall of Fame purposes, 7? I can
like,
get
it's
there.
a little... I guess I'm being a little dramatic.
5 is tight.
Give me your best numbers, and I'll dance with them either way. But, 7 years, that's... You're close to a decade of a level of dominance, and we can start talking.
There's also just a certain equation of how good that peak is versus how long it is. Like, you gotta figure out within yourself where each guy lines up there a little bit.
Let me move us on. Todd Helton, you're a Hall of Famer. Congrats. I'll do a double dip, because these guys played the same position. You're going to have more heartstrings with these two guys. Peak becomes interesting. Andruw Jones, who when we did this initial show about 2 years ago, he was a conversation then. He's still a conversation now. Talk about peaks and careers before 30. Andruw Jones is going to have an incredible argument. And then I want to compare him to kind of your guy, Trev. Torii Big Game Hunter. You talk about a peak, 9 years, an elite, or a high-level hitter. A high-level hitter, especially for the position. But if you watch the man play, he could... The phrase, go and get it, and Torii Hunter, those might be most in lockstep in my head than any outfielder ever. Torii Hunter went out and get it to the tune of 9 straight Gold Gloves.
Am I going to start talking about Torii Hunter, who I'm going to see this weekend, by the way? So if he watches this episode,
hey.
What do you want to go here? Are you nominating both of these guys?
I think it's an interesting conversation. Andruw Jones has 12 more career WAR. Andruw Jones has about 80 more home runs. Slightly different hitters. I think there's good arguments that both of these guys aren't Hall of Famers. I think there's good arguments that both of these guys are Hall of Famers, depending how you view that beautiful piece of land in Cooperstown.
Okay, I'm a big Hall guy.
Sure.
I don't know if we've established this. I just think there's so many good players. I mean, so many great players out there that we need to continue to, make sure they get their due. I mean, especially these two guys. These two guys, I mean, they were some of the faces of baseball in their generation. To me, that's what else is there for the Hall of Fame? If you have the numbers to back it up as well, we're talking about two kind of generational center fielders here defensively. I mean, that I think that for so long it was, well, did you hit 500 homers? Did you hit get 3,000 career hits? It's like that ain't all the game is. And nowadays, obviously, we recognize that more and more as we have, TrackMan and all this data there. We understand the importance of defense and how it affects the game. I mean, these guys affected the game more than anybody. So if you're asking me, do I want both these guys in the Hall? I would say yes. I mean, I Andruw Jones to me is kind of a no-brainer. I know didn't even get 2,000 career hits, so the old school guys are not going to like that. But 434 homers to go along with 10 Gold Gloves is nuts. Those two things right there. You could tell me, I don't need to know anything else about a guy, but you tell me you won 10 Gold Gloves in center field and you hit 434 homers. Mm-hmm. I'm like, you're in the Hall of Fame, bro.
Yeah, it's stealing. This is stealing a line directly from Foolish Baseball. But what if I told you a guy who is in the conversation for best defensive center fielder ever also hit well over 400 homers? That is kind of enough. I know a lot of the work to get into the Hall of Fame is done in your 30s, and his 30s did not go according to the schedule. But boy, were his 20s great. And he did get years there to compile some numbers.
I think if you tell me Andruw Jones isn't a Hall of Famer, I don't want to talk baseball with you.
I think you're right.
I just think we won't get along. It'd be a bad discussion, probably.
I think you're right.
I don't know how much we line up on.
There's an argument he's the best defensive center fielder ever, which if you want to debate that all day between Kiermaier has entered the chat. If you argue Willie Mays, I can't argue against you. I don't know. I didn't watch as many Willie highlights as I've liked. I've seen one.
If Kevin Kiermaier was hitting freaking 50 homers a year, don't you think this guy is incredible?
Right. I've been jazzed up for the Yanks to sign Kevin Kiermaier for him to hit a 727 OPS next year. I brought up Andruw Jones on the initial show 2 years ago. I think he's a guy that definitely deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. And a reminder, there is going to be a day when John Boy Media opens up a Hall of Ball. And that's got Kenny Lofton. That's got Trevor Plouffe. That's got Bernie Williams. How do you tell the story of the Yankees in center field without Bernie Williams? It's disgusting. He switch hit. Anyways, Torii Hunter, who also, by the way, has
identified his peak years. It did I gasped a little.
He has. If you watched Torii Hunter play and you wanted to join that conversation of best defender center fielders ever, I'd hear you out on Torii if you watched him. But this is where baseball gets silly, Trev, because Torii Hunter career defensive WAR, he has 4. That doesn't feel right to me. Where Andruw Jones has 24. So Andruw Jones, who has 12 more career WAR than Torii Hunter, if you shifted your defensive WAR metrics, which we still don't have figured out, reminder, and Andruw Jones was playing in the 90s, so I still don't really get how we did his defensive WAR. If you instantly snapped your fingers and made Torii Hunter's career defensive WAR 15, he'd basically have the same WAR as Andruw Jones. And it doesn't change the way I think about Torii Hunter as a baseball player. So you start to enter a very weird area of how do we really measure these guys? And I don't know. And the sick part of it is, and I know you have to look this man in the fence. Look this man in the fence?
Yeah.
Excuse me?
Yeah.
You might wish there's a fence between you.
I think the easy argument is Torii Hunter is not a Hall of Famer.
And Andruw Jones is.
Yes.
Because of the homers or because of the defensive WAR? Because you just shit on defensive WAR.
I think homers, and then it turns into WAR, which is crazy because part of me believes in it.
What about hits? Tori's way closer to 3,000 hits than Andruw Jones.
I love hits. Hits matter.
Hits do matter.
I'm texting our shirt store right now. Hits matter.
Yes, they do.
Done.
Hits, they matter.
Fucking Kenny.
I will say this about defensive WAR because I feel like WAR in general, you use it if it supports your argument, and you don't, and you shit on it if it doesn't support your argument. It's kind of how baseball fans talk about WAR. And you're right, defensive WAR. How I believe this is how they go back. They just go back and look at video, and they see where you're setting up, and they see where you catch the ball. I think that is part of the equation. Guys sitting around watching old film
did that work. But...
So that's interesting to me. I'm not saying one way or the other. To me, yeah, it's again, you're right. If you watch Torii play center field, he didn't change the game in center field, like change the game in general, but like, was there anybody better at the time for 9 years?
He's got 9.
It seemed like he made home run robberies expected.
He would go
like it kind of felt like baseball.
Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Hall of Fame. Torii, and I don't know if we need to. I think it's different for everybody. Torii was famous, dude. Like Torii was cool, and he was like growing the game that way too, off the field. Like he has hilarious. He has a meme from one of his commercials. like I don't know. I'm in on Torii. I do agree with you. Like if you just told me Torii Hunter's defensive WAR was 50, I'd be like, yeah, sure.
Right?
Like okay.
Dude, that's
I check both of these guys. If you're asking me, I check both of them.
I'm gonna text fucking Jolly Olive right now. I'm hot. The Duncan is slapping today. We're getting a Hits Matter shirt. And you know it's a game I want to play on JM Baseball? Guess this player's career defensive WAR.
I like that. Listen, the way I said Andruw Jones, if you're talking about one of the best defensive center fielders, plus he hit 450 home runs, right? That's what we talked about, or whatever it was, 477.
Yeah, 434 is his final home run mark that I'm seeing.
Same, whatever.
Yeah.
If you say that about him and you're like, wow, okay, that sounds like a Hall of Fame to me. You could say the same thing about Torii Hunter. Oh, this guy won 9 Gold Gloves in a row, and he also had over 2,400 career hits and over 350 homers. You'd be like, yeah.
Some of the kids watching this video might remember late career right field Torii Hunter. For the sake of just pointing out the stat, all 9 of those are center field Gold Gloves. All of them. I just checked.
Ooh, that's a great point with outfielders to stick around in the outfield so long, like as Torii did. Is that where it got dragged down?
I don't know, man. I'm about to get hot over here because I just sorted players by offensive WAR, and again, Bernie Williams is a top 10 center fielder, offensive WAR.
Never got the conversation he needed.
Mickey Mantle has a negative defensive WAR. And I'll just tell you, any old bird I've told you said that guy used to cover ground like anyone you've ever seen. So I don't know, man. I don't know.
Torii Hunter lost approximately like 5 or 6 defensive WAR according to Baseball Reference over the last 4 years of his career. So.
Jeez.
I don't know.
Add it on.
I don't know. Like, that's where we've become so comfortable with this stuff without acknowledging kind of what it really is. And I know we talked about doing draft. I think draft style's out because part of my setup for this was there's a center fielder with more WAR above them. Carlos Beltran, dude. Go look at that cat's resume. Go look at that cat's resume.
I'm checking yes on Carlos Beltran.
You have to if we're considering for what
these two.
No, I am.
If you like
got
Andruw, if you like Torii, you have to like Beltran.
I'm in on Beltran. He's been on the ballot and was shamed. This is not his first year. Last year was his first year, right?
I believe last year was the first year, yes.
So he got a little shamed for being part of the Astros scandal, which is, these baseball writers, they love to hold people accountable except themselves. So I think that was, a reason why some of his numbers percentage-wise weren't there. But yeah, the numbers support that. I want to cast my vote for him. So I think that brings our grand total to 5 so far.
Okay.
I don't know if are we going to go into all these numbers all the time? I don't think so.
I don't think so. I just think people...
We can pivot at the end and make a tough decision to take a guy off if we're feeling like we're at a limit.
Look at Beltran on paper. Go look at the stolen bases. Go look at his home runs. Like, that dude played defense too. If you want to make up...
years are there.
If you want to make up some trivia questions with your buddies and you want to combine homers and stolen bases, Beltran probably makes that trivia. And if you saw this baseball season, stolen bases matter. I just made a whole new shirt collection. Hits matter. Stolen bases matter. I guess I am passionate about this stuff, Trev. I don't know. Reproducing. Producing. RBIs, babies. RBIs and babies matter. New shirt.
I mean, RBIs do matter.
RBIs do matter.
It's circumstantial and reliant on your teammates.
There's a shadow looming over baseball, Trev. I don't know you've heard about this. The steroid era.
Part of the reason a lot of people are out on this conversation in total, in all of it, is because it often comes down to this. It becomes steroid day every year.
I guess that's a good point. Where does our collective mind lie on steroids? I'm out on these guys.
So the names that jump out on the ballot, Alex Rodriguez, which a quick reminder, the goofy broadcaster that we like to laugh at sometimes. Go check out what he did do on the baseball field. Guy would have an argument for one of the best players ever without the allegations.
Earmuffs for everyone out there. Earmuffs. Yeah. This guy was a fucking menace.
He's unbelievable, dude.
Dude, watching that guy play, I mean, I emulated a lot of things with Alex Rodriguez. The white batting gloves on the road, hot.
Oh. Whoa. Led the league in home runs 5 times. Did a lot.
I wish he was different.
Did a lot of the damage.
I wish he was a different person.
Did a lot of the damage at shortstop to a level no shortstops ever did that kind of damage. He changed the game. Manny Ramirez, who I'm not going to bring up any defensive war because I'll tell you what, my guy Joe's McFly, who I have a ton of respect for as a human, whenever Manny gets mentioned, in one game, the best right-handed hitter argument during their prime, just like I talked about defensive center fielders, you could have that argument all day. I loved Albert Pujols. I copied his stance. Mickey Cabs has himself an argument in recent years. There's a lot of dudes. Peak Manny Ramirez, you didn't get him out. You did not get him out. And I think there was one other steroid guy on this list. But Trev, I mean, we're still just Sheffield. I know he has some rumors. Like, those guys are still just no-fly zone for now.
I go back and forth on this, I think, in my head. But because the reason I go back and forth is because there's some people in there that use performance-enhancing drugs. They just weren't really called performance-enhancing drugs yet. Right. So, is it like, hey, you did this, but it wasn't necessarily breaking any rules at the time, even though now they are considered breaking rules? Where do you draw the line there? I don't really know. I don't want to be the gatekeeper. I don't. I will just say this. I don't think if you have a for sure steroid use suspension or admittance during your playing time, I think that it needs to be like something happened to you. And I guess that'll be being out of the Hall of Fame. So you serve your suspension, great. I think included in that means the Hall of Fame is wishy-washy for you and probably non-existent.
Yeah.
We've had this is the thing. We've become like numb to cheaters in baseball society in general, but like we can't get numb. Like it should be a fair game. That's the best baseball possible, is everybody's on the same level. If you're using these things, like, you're going to get help, whether it's recovery, whether it's strength, whatever it is, coming back from an injury, doesn't matter. Like, everybody should have to do the same things. And you can't take steroids. It helps your career. I'm out. So I think my official opinion on it is no.
First of all, I respect your opinion specifically, Trev. And
thank you.
Everybody like you, I defer to the guys who played clean while you were doing it. I get in such a mental pretzel on these guys because, yes, when I watched them, they were the best I was watching. There's a whole generation that these guys, obviously we just went through 10 years of Roger and Bonds and others. At the end of the day, the Hall of Fame itself is a baseball museum. And I agree. I don't want to honor the guys that we know cheated and sabotage a lot of what the game is about. But it is a baseball museum. It does feel like baseball, and the writers are trying to tell me a whole generation that you guys and my generation grew up watching doesn't count. They are doing their best to try to sweep this under the rug, and I end up in such a weird place that they're kind of trying to pretend it didn't happen. It's well, I grew up watching these guys. I don't know. You can have a conversation with your kid when you go and you can explain that guy did cheat. That's bad. The conversation is as simple as that. But I also don't want to honor them. So it's so weird. It's such a.
Do you think
you can talk yourself into anything.
those guys? Do you think those guys, Alex Rodriguez, just him and Manny Ramirez? Let's just say those two guys right away, and Barry Bonds. Do you think that they would be okay with if the Hall of Fame was hey, you're in the Hall of Fame, but we are going to put an asterisk or an explanation of this guy was caught for using steroids, and for this reason he has this notation next to it. Do you think they'd like that and they'd welcome that, or they're no, we don't want to be included in that?
Trevor, you meet a lot of people in this life and the next, hopefully. I think Alex Rodriguez would do anything in the world, including be on Fox broadcasts for the past decade and the upcoming decade, to try to get into that Hall of Fame.
With an asterisk, though, not just in it.
Dude, he's already admitted. He admits it was a mistake. He's open with it. Manny Ramirez was known for it while he played. I don't think he cares. And let me say that with its own asterisk. I bet Manny Ramirez would like to be in the Hall of Fame because he was an all-time legendary baseball player. I think he's probably, as you could tell from his actions, wasn't he playing ball in Australia 2 years ago?
He's playing ball all over the place.
I think he likes
Mr. Worldwide.
Games.
I think he always liked playing ball. I think he still likes playing ball. And he was known while he played for Manny being Manny, which was a certain level of not care in almost a beautiful way. So I think it comes down to the personalities there. And in the Hall of Ball, there's going to be room for them. And I think in the Hall of Fame there will be one day, but God, I don't know.
You think so? Man, I don't know.
Have to, right? What?
We got to move on. We got to keep
Yeah.
this thing turning, guys.
I-
How many people do we have on the ballot so far?
I got one more thing and then I think I've got a speed route for us. There's two left-handed pitchers, and I know pitchers are pitchers, right? There's no aces.
None of the starting pitchers screamed to me. On this list.
when Scherzer enters the ballot, when Verlander enters the ballot, it's not even going to be a discussion. Although we'll have a discussion because that's Talkin' Baseball. Subscribe, review. Andy Pettitte and Mark Buehrle, two lefties who could twirl it, pick it. Had a lot of really, really good seasons. I'm wearing a Yankees hat. I've seen Andy Pettitte pitch in a lot of big games and win some World Series titles with a fantastic team. Mark Buehrle didn't have as many of those teams along the way. Their resumes on paper look very different. I do get caught up, and I think part of it's Yankee bullshit. I think a chunk of it's just being a big sports fan. World Series and playoffs have to matter, because otherwise what does any of this mean? And Andy's postseason resume is incredible, but I very much get that Mark Buehrle could have done those things if presented the opportunity, but he didn't have as much of an opportunity. So I don't know, Trev. Do you want to spin that in any way, or pitchers are just soft?
Andy Pettitte is a steroid guy. I mean, he admitted it. So I think that's what's holding him back. So he's not on our ballot because we just established that we're not doing that. He handled it better than anyone. I will say that about Andy Pettitte. Great job handling it. PR 101. Everybody should just go look what he did.
Mm-hmm. Every guy that gets caught from now on, do it that way.
Yes, just do it. So Hall of Fame of PR, Andy Pettitte is in. Good job with that one. Buehrle's interesting, man, because you can't compare what he did to like old time pitchers. Like the fact that he threw 14 years of 200 innings in a row in this generation is nuts and Hall of Fame worthy to me. But then people are like, oh, well, Bert Blyleven threw 330 innings, 15 years in a row. It's like, yeah, that was a different era, bro. Yeah. That was different. Like, we have to have era-to-era discussions. I mean, I don't know if Mark Buehrle is a Hall of Famer. I mean, in the general zeitgeist of Hall of Fame minds. But, like, to me, like, that's something very, very extraordinary that you did. And isn't that kind of what Hall of Fame is about?
Yeah.
But I'm not putting Mark Buehrle on the ballot.
Trev,
I'm not doing that because we're at a place now where like he hasn't kind of gotten what we have put on the ballot so far. But I want to say like that those 14 years of over 200 innings pitch is nuts.
It is. I think, and this is where again we could do this all day, so we won't. Mark Buehrle, I know the voting got skewed, and I just gave a speech about that. He finished top 5 in the Cy Young once. Top 4, 0. So, like,
yeah.
Think of what the goal of the Hall of Fame was to do. And I love what you're saying, and we're getting to a point where innings matter more than ever. But I don't know, man. I don't know. And hey, your Andy argument is fair that I think we leave the pitchers in our rear view for now.
No, we have Billy Wagner. We did not put on. He's going to get in. He's on the ballot check. We don't have to talk much about him. You know about Billy Wagner.
Okay, so let's do
Billy's an easy choice for us. He's in.
Yes,
he is for me. It was an awakening for me 2 years ago. He played in the NL all that time when I was growing up, so I didn't really watch that much. His stat page is crazy. I'm in.
Billy Wagner, in. We're all in on that. Adrian Beltre, obviously, we're in on that. Andruw Jones, we're in on that. We're doing Torii for now? Fuck it. You see him in a couple days.
For sure.
He's got a decade argument.
I had the guys we locked in as Beltre,
Helton. Did I say
Beltran? Beltre, Helton,
yes.
Jones, Beltran, Billy Wagner are the 5 we're locked.
Okay.
Torii, I wanted the clarification on if we officially have him. And A-Rod and Manny, I don't think we've officially said what our vote is.
Let's do Torii, because that defensive war argument is insane. Insane. Okay. And how about this? So we've got 6.
Yes, that's 6 guys we've locked.
I guess
I have.
Let's each lock one and end it.
I have one more I want to lock, and I might have to go because I have to do baseball today.
Okay,
sure.
Joe Mauer.
I thought you might.
I think he's a no-brainer. I really do.
Mauer.
I don't think that the argument that he only played catcher for so long and not by his fault. The guy got concussed, dude, and the doctor said don't play catcher anymore. Like, go look at his peak, what he was able to do, 3 batting titles as a catcher, while simultaneously winning Gold Gloves. He has the MVP. He's one of the best hitting catchers of all time, and just, man, watch his defensive highlights too. An absolute laser for an arm. Just, he is. If there's anyone that deserves to be in the Hall of Fame, like it's Mauer. He dedicated his whole life to this game. Was like the perfect. He did everything great. He did everything great, man. And yes, he had to move off his position. I understand that. Joe Mauer's a Hall of Famer. Like, one of the best pure hitters we're ever going to see. One of the best athletes overall we're ever going to see. Go look up Joe Mauer in football and basketball and all these things, dude. Like, he is I think a lot of people think of Joe Mauer as like a dorky catcher. It's kind of. He kind of is a dorky catcher.
Right.
But there's so much more to him, too. He will wreck you in any sport. Joe Mauer's a guy for me. I don't think he's a first ballot guy because, they hold that very close. But I think he's like a quick into the Hall of Fame.
Gonna get in eventually, I think.
I think I think we can all confirm that. Since the 80s, if I'm reading this right, I think 3 catchers have won MVP awards: Joe Mauer, Pudge Rodriguez, and Buster Posey. So
it's pretty good.
Yeah, and I like the concussion.
He doesn't have his knock against him is the counting stats.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Like he didn't hit a bunch of homers. He doesn't have enough hits, only 21,000 or 2,100 hits.
The 2's a real number.
The peak is beautiful.
And all those peak years are his catcher years. Like he did that behind the dish. Had the MVP years.
I love that man so much.
He's
I am pro Mauer.
We can lock that in. Beebs, if you get one more vote, where are you going?
I'm trying to figure out what my one more vote is. If you have a guy you're passionate about, I'll let you fire it off. Because I'm doing a little scrolling, deciding. You might make a choice for me.
I think that the guy that's jumping off for me, as we wrap this up, Chase Utley.
He's one of the guys I'm thinking about in the last conversation I think we had to have.
I think if you're one of the youths, I don't know if you truly understand how long middle infield was not a hitting position. You go out there, field balls, turn the 2-ball, put it in play, don't strike out. Chase Utley, man, he's surrounded by Hall of Famers, if you're even just going by WAR. He did it on offense and defense. He had pop. He had speed. I think, I just think for what he did at second base and how I view the Hall of Fame, I think Chase Utley has a pretty damn good argument.
I'm in a Chase Utley.
Touch of gray in the
hair.
I can
support Chase
Silver
Utley.
Fox looking good.
Good day.
I want to say one thing before I do have to go because
Sure.
Chris Rose is texting me, and you guys can finish up. Matt Holliday, I DM'd you on Instagram, and he left me on scene.
Wow. He's a guy running through my head as I sort out my vote because he has a 10-year peak that is really, really good.
If you're going one way or the other, just remember he left
right.
me on red.
He did leave you on red, which isn't not
It's a negative.
factoring
It's
in
a
for me.
negative. Still love you, bro. All right, love you guys, and
Love.
go our Hall of Fame ballot.
Bye, Treb. Love you.
Nice. RoboTrev on the screen, fixed it. So these are some names cycling through my head a little bit.
You
as I'm
get
trying to
one,
slow.
Beebs.
Do I want to do my Bobby Abreu symbolic vote? It's a little bit in my heart. Matt Holliday's peak, a little bit in my heart. David Wright, just want to say his name. The 9 years are good. That's kind of all he got. It's ultimately short. Most of the Hall of Fame work is done in your 30s, and he basically didn't get those. Not his fault, but he's not in. Victor Martinez, great peak that stuck out to me. A lot more time at catcher than I think people realize. He's awesome. It does feel just a little short, even though the numbers, boy, are they remarkably similar to Mauer, and Mauer feels really good to me. Adrian Gonzalez, his peak really sticks out to me, but it does feel just short vibes-wise. I don't know what it is about it. I really like him. I'm open to a longer conversation about him one day. Doesn't feel like right now is happening. It's his first year. So I think I will go with I will use my one vote on the Bobby Abreu symbolic vote. Because, God, that peak, really good. A 13-year run, 297, 402, 492. It's an 894 OPS over that long a period. It was a good right field glove. He hit 39 doubles a year. He was playing games. The WAR is at 60. He deserves the conversation. Do I believe he is truly a Hall of Famer? I don't know. but I want to vote for him and have the conversation because, man, it is a very impressive resume. Doing it as far as we know, clean in an era that people were not, and he was so good.
The seasons are funny, man. I mean, there's a lot of 5 and 6 WAR seasons in there. I want to see if any of his MVP voting can be skewed by
or any of those like a weird way we used to vote.
Because otherwise, it's just crazy to look at. I mean. Not really. I mean, he's,
in my heart of hearts, I do think he's probably just short of like, does he actually deserve this? If I had a vote, if I had a vote and I could do 10 names by myself, he's definitely one of them. So I think I will use him and get him onto this ballot.
Let's put him on. Let's open it up to the people. I don't think either of us believe in Abreu, but we'll
don't
vote.
Believe in him. I don't know if I believe in him actually being a Hall of Famer. That's the beauty of how this works a little bit.
We'll put 9 on our ballot. Make sure you guys reply to the post on Twitter and Instagram. Who should be the 10th? Maybe there shouldn't be one. I don't know.
Yeah,
Bobby, there's a couple. Tori's a really interesting one, but get ready for JM Baseball's Guess That D War because that is ridiculous. Hey. Let's wrap it up. Hopefully we get some breaking news soon. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. God, there's going to be big news soon. Soto, Ohtani, Yamamoto.
6 sucks. K-Rod, you have a lot of saves, man.
One day.
Not this year.